If I only use 3 minutes to summarize the second half of the Old Testament, my summary is that the second half of the Old Testament talks about man's failure and God's redemption. From the book of Judges to Malachi, God began to walk as he pleased, as all the way down, but God's work of redemption continues to deepen. A Korean theologian also made a high-level summary of the Bible. He believes that the entire Bible is a history of God's redemption. The depravity of Israelites is constantly bottling out, and God's work of saving the nation of Israel is also constantly bringing revival. Helpless, as Jesus pointed out, the Israelites often recognize the thief as their father, so they were led by the devil and reached the lowest point. From the book of Malachi to the Gospel of Matthew, there were 400 years in between, and God did not speak. When I first read the Old Testament, I thought that the nation of Israel was still outstanding. The reason why so many degenerate people and things were recorded was that the Bible was very true and not taught by sages. It was only later that I realized the decline of the Israelites was the trajectory of the whole, because they don't have Christ. Even if they will to do good, it is not up to them to do it. Therefore, although the more I read the Old Testament, the more I hate its misfortune and anger at it, but the more I look forward to Christ, the more I believe that only Christ can bring complete salvation. In the second half of the Old Testament, the life and writings of David, Samuel, Psalms occupy a very important position. It is the brightest point in the second half of the Old Testament. God called David a man after God's own heart in 1 Samuel 13:14. After David's peak was when he had the second chance to kill Saul, but he still held back and only waited for God's action. Because he only looks at the head of the God. He does not take pleasure in things, does not feel sad for himself, but only takes pleasure in God. Although Saul deceived people too much and deserved to die, if he offended God by killing God's anointed, David would rather not do it. Although killing Saul would allow him to ascend to the sky and sit on the throne in one step, if he alienated his relationship with God because of this, David would rather not do it again. Of the 150 Psalms, David's Psalms make up nearly half. In particular, his poem on praying to God is an important model essay for beginners in prayer. There is a saying that goes like this: if you read 100 Psalms by heart, you will slip away even if you don't know how to pray.